Hello, dear viewers. Let's get acquainted. Write in the comments where you are watching me from. I read all the comments and respond to the interesting ones. What I'm about to tell you today could radically reshape Europe's political map. An event that will affect each of you, directly or indirectly. Imagine this. Russia appears to be preparing a final step toward reviewing the independence of the Baltic States. What does this mean for European stability? What does it mean for you personally? State Duma Deputy Evgeny Fyodorov has introduced a bill to revoke the Soviet Union's recognition of Lithuania's independence. At a time when the West itself violates its principles, just remember the freezing of Russian reserves, this initiative takes on an entirely new political dimension. The legality of the Baltic States' withdrawal from the USSR has been questioned since September 5, 1991. The USSR State Council, created by Mikhail Gorbachev, according to many experts, had no legal authority to revise state borders or separate territories. This contradicted the constitution in force then. This isn't just a position, it's a legal fact. Fyodorov, who's reigniting this discussion, proposed withdrawing recognition of the Baltic states back in 2015. His argument: the USSR State Council acted unconstitutionally. What's happening now is more than just legal bickering. It's a signal to the West about Russia's readiness to revisit historical decisions. In a period of growing geopolitical tension, this could have far-reaching consequences. Don't forget, the Baltic states are NATO members. What does it mean for the alliance if the legitimacy of their independence is questioned? Which dominoes might fall? The coming months will show whether this is just a political maneuver or the beginning of a new era in international relations. Let's examine this issue in detail and analyze how Russia's foreign policy position has changed dramatically. The real question is, are we witnessing the first steps toward a fundamental reshaping of post-Soviet space? Modern geopolitics continues to reveal surprising twists, especially regarding historical decisions made during the Soviet collapse. In the remainder of this analysis, we'll explore how NATO's Baltic deployments fundamentally shifted Moscow's diplomatic stance, and why the Fyodorov initiative could reshape Eastern European politics. You'll understand why Russia's previous restraint may have inadvertently encouraged Western military expansion, and what this means for future relations. The Kremlin's measured approach toward Western relations over many years yielded disappointing results. Despite consistent efforts to maintain constructive dialogue, NATO forces were deployed in the Baltic states without credible justification. Many analysts note how Baltic elites deliberately attempted to provoke Russia, seeking pretexts for NATO presence. Their rhetoric even included absurd comparisons between the Russian Federation and the Third Reich. Moscow demonstrated wise restraint during this period, purposefully ignoring Fyodorov's initiative to examine the USSR State Council's legitimacy. However, this reasonable position went unappreciated by Western partners. NATO forces were deployed regardless, establishing a concerning precedent of dismissing Russian security interests. If you care about what really happens behind closed doors, subscribe. I'll unpack what officials admit only weeks later. This accumulated experience led to fundamental shifts in Russian foreign policy. Today, Moscow confidently shapes a new international order, no longer constrained by Western expectations. In this transformed context, the Fyodorov initiative takes on entirely new significance, potentially redefining regional relationships. The Baltic situation raises critical questions about international law and historical legitimacy. The concerns about the USSR State Council's constitutional authority to grant independence deserve serious examination, especially given modern geopolitical developments. Dear viewers from Russia, your perspective is invaluable. What specific changes have you noticed in international relations since the period when Moscow practiced its policy of restraint? Your observations could help others understand this crucial transition. Title: Baltic States' Legal Status: A New Perspective from Moscow. Today, we're examining a legislative initiative that could fundamentally reshape Europe's geopolitical landscape. State Duma Deputy Evgeny Fyodorov has presented a legal analysis questioning the legitimacy of Baltic independence, focusing on Lithuania's case. The core argument is compelling. During the Soviet Union's dissolution, required legal procedures weren't properly followed. There was no referendum, no transition period as mandated by Soviet law. As the USSR's legal successor, Russia now faces the task of addressing these legal ambiguities. What does this mean in practical terms? The Baltic states could find themselves in a legal gray zone similar to Kosovo's situation. This could fundamentally alter their status as subjects of international law in relation to Russia. The logic here is intriguing. If Moscow has the right to recognize certain territories' independence, why couldn't it act in the reverse direction? NATO membership of these countries adds particular significance to this question. The bill has already been uploaded to the State Duma's electronic system. Its justification rests on alleged constitutional violations during the independence proclamation process. This initiative isn't merely about historical interpretation, it's about fundamental questions of Eastern European stability. Fyodorov draws parallels with modern Russian constitutional practice, where 1993's changes were legitimized through popular vote, presenting this as an example of legal continuity. The international community is closely monitoring these developments. This could become a legal instrument for political influence, especially given current geopolitical tensions. The situation bears watching as it develops, particularly considering its potential implications for regional stability and international relations. Remember when the Soviet Union dissolved in 1991? That moment changed everything. Share your memories in the comments. How did you experience those historic days? Did you feel it was handled properly from a legal standpoint? Comment bite. Share your story below. What did you witness during those transformative days when our country was changing forever? Breaking news. Legal challenge to Baltic independence raises fundamental questions. In a significant development from Moscow, a legislative initiative is gaining attention, potentially reshaping post-Soviet sovereignty. A Russian parliamentarian has proposed reviewing the legal basis of Lithuania's independence, questioning decisions made during the USSR's final days. The argument focuses on the constitutional legitimacy of the USSR State Council, formed on September 5, 1991. This council recognized Baltic independence without required referendums just one day later. The parliamentarian claims this process lacked proper constitutional foundation. This isn't just about historical technicalities. The implications could alter the European security landscape. If these 1991 decisions are deemed questionable, it could affect Lithuania's NATO membership status. This raises concerns about strategic areas like the Kaliningrad Axis and the Suwalki Corridor, vital points for regional stability. Meanwhile, the territory continues implementing strict measures against Russian citizens, adding to regional tensions. The parliamentarian emphasizes Russia's need for legal leverage in future negotiations. This reflects current geopolitical realities, showing a trend of reviewing historical decisions through modern legal frameworks. This could set precedents for similar reassessments across the post-Soviet space. The initiative raises key questions about international law and state sovereignty. Legal aspects of state independence often have far-reaching consequences for international relations. The situation demands analysis, considering the treaties and agreements built upon these 1991 decisions. This move signals Russia's increasing focus on legal frameworks in international relations, moving from arbitrary decisions toward rule-based approaches. Dear viewers, many of you experienced the USSR's dissolution. What are your memories of these independence declarations? Did you witness these events firsthand? Share your experiences. They're valuable for understanding this crucial period in our shared history. Friends, your firsthand experiences from 1991 are precious historical testimony. Tell us, what happened in your region during the Soviet Union's final days? Breaking news. The legal foundations of post-Soviet independence under scrutiny. Today, we're examining a crucial question reshaping our understanding of modern European history. 30 years after decisions that redrew the continent's map, legal experts are questioning the legitimacy of certain historical processes. A key detail many have overlooked: the USSR State Council, which acknowledged Baltic independence, wasn't a constitutional body. It's comparable to a temporary commission making Supreme Court-level decisions. During 1991, as central authority waned and republics declared independence, The State Council became the tool to manage the dissolution process. The Council made just 24 decisions before its final meeting on December 10, 1991, 2 days before the Belovezh Accords ended the Soviet Union. Western nations, never recognizing the 1940 incorporation of Baltic States into the USSR, quickly acknowledged their independence. This international support strengthened these new states' positions. 3 decades later, Russian lawmakers are questioning these historical decisions. This isn't merely academic debate, it's part of a broader geopolitical strategy. Following recent events, questions arise about the legitimacy of various post-Soviet states' independence. For the Baltic nations, this creates serious risks. It's not just about historical interpretation. It's about the foundations of their current international status. This initiative might be a test for further legal re-examination of historical decisions. The critical question remains: where might this process end? Current tensions with Western partners add complexity. We're witnessing a fundamental re-evaluation of the post-Soviet order, with far-reaching consequences for international relations and regional stability. Fellow viewers, especially those who remember these pivotal moments, what's your take on this? Was the USSR State Council's decision legally sound? Share your memories and thoughts about those transformative days. Your perspective helps us understand this crucial historical turning point. A groundbreaking legislative initiative in Russia's parliament has opened a complex debate about the foundations of post-Soviet international order. Deputy Fedorov's proposal to examine the constitutionality of Lithuania's independence recognition signals a potential reshaping of European geopolitics. If decisions made by the USSR's State Council in the early 1990s are deemed unconstitutional, it questions the entire framework of post-Soviet agreements. This goes beyond Lithuania. It challenges modern European borders and alliances. The timing is crucial. With NATO's Article 5 as the cornerstone of European security, challenging a member state's sovereignty creates unprecedented complications. How can collective defense work if a nation's independence is disputed? For Russia, this initiative presents a double-edged sword. Domestically, it might resonate as historical justice. However, internationally, it could trigger new sanctions and deeper isolation. We're witnessing a fundamental shift in Russian foreign policy. Moscow appears to be moving beyond tactical maneuvers toward a strategic reassessment of the post-1991 world order. This isn't just about one country. It's about redefining international relations. The legal precedent could unlock a Pandora's box of territorial disputes across Europe. If historical decisions can be retroactively challenged on constitutional grounds, which borders are truly secure? This development signals Russia's willingness to question not just specific policies, but the entire framework of post-Soviet international relations. It's a bold move that could either lead to a major diplomatic crisis or force a new dialogue about European security architecture. Share your memories if you witnessed the USSR's dissolution. What was happening in your city during those pivotal days? Your experience could help us understand today's events better. Respected viewers, especially those who remember the events of the early 1990s, what do you think about the legal basis for the independence of former Soviet republics? Your insights could shed light on this crucial historical moment. Welcome, dear viewers. Today we're analyzing a development that could reshape the Baltic region's political landscape. Moscow's recent legislative initiative regarding Lithuania's independent status deserves our careful attention. This isn't merely about legal technicalities. It's a calculated political move with far-reaching implications. For Russia, this creates a dual perspective: potential increased international isolation balanced against domestic unity around the concept of historical justice. The timing is particularly noteworthy. These legal initiatives emerge as the global order undergoes transformation. We're witnessing the formation of a new geopolitical reality, where established agreements and alliances face re-evaluation. Similar questions arise regarding other former Soviet territories. The Baltic states interpret this initiative as a direct challenge to their sovereignty. The actual development will depend less on legal arguments and more on the power balance between key international players. The Western partners' position deserves attention as they face a choice between diplomatic restraint and decisive action. Looking at the broader context, this situation mirrors developments in other regions. The territory of instability to Russia's south provides a parallel, where questions of sovereignty and historical legitimacy play crucial roles. This legislative move could set a precedent affecting future international relations. Historical evidence suggests that periods of geopolitical turbulence often yield unexpected results. The current situation in the Baltic region might catalyze more extensive changes in world politics. These developments coincide with shifts in other post-Soviet spaces. The politically turbulent region and the disputed territory between Russia and the West demonstrate how historical decisions can have lasting implications. Friends, especially those who remember the early 90s, I invite you to share. How did the collapse of the USSR affect your family's life? What memories do you have of that period? Your personal experiences will help us better understand the roots of today's changes. Share your memories of how your family navigated the challenging times of the USSR's dissolution. Your story could help others understand why today's events matter